So thank you everybody for coming, and thank you for staying despite the temperature dropping. Really our intention in putting together this evening is to grow our group, our small group, which has been meeting for a while, and Anya is going to go into some detail about how we formed and what's been happening in Limerick, and to create some momentum, and really to invite you to share your ideas, your dreams with us. We're running a little bit late, it's getting cold, and I'm not going to spend spend much time on detail. If you would go on to the next one, the assumption is that if you're here, you're probably interested in one or more or all of these principles which underlie collaborative housing. If you go on, Gabriella. And any of these images, and we've seen some lovely images this evening of co-housing developments, collaborative housing developments. You may have your own ideas. We really would love you to join us and share those ideas, share those dreams. That it feels as though there's a wave, it feels as though there's a momentum. You've heard from a lot of speakers, and we'll finish up our presentation this evening with some information about how we'd like to progress with the next steps. So I'll hand over to Anya.
Hi, I just thought, we thought we'd go through a brief history of where we've come from. So it's just this particular group, the Limerick, what we call ourselves Collaborative Housing Limerick, we've kind of evolved from following people that have gone before but are still part of us, you know what I mean? It's very hard to kind of delineate. But basically, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. The first, oh, right, well there's a group missing from there. Rosie Webb would know about it. It was a group of academics, architecture students, and they wanted to have a makers group, they called it, and basically they wanted to access housing that they could contribute to themselves. And they did a lot of research, and they built up interactive maps of Limerick. They did a survey of the derelict sites in conjunction with George in Limerick, and did very detailed maps and that are still there, and they built a Fab Lab image of the Limerick city. Then aligned with that is a group, a cooperative housing group, and they were established in Ormiston House, which is an artist group. And they invited, at the time there was a lot of exploration going on of George in Limerick, and they invited people who were interested, involved in groups, to kind of get together. They met a few times, and then they wanted to bring the numerous conversations together. One thing they did was they visited a place in Monahasset Mill in America, in Rhode Island, and they brought him over and they hosted a speech and then a talk, and then they went and visited, and they're very interested in coming and joining or helping out in the Limerick group. They then ran into the issues with their own property in Patrick Street, so they've had to shelve this kind of development, but they're still very interested and involved, as Annette would tell you. She knows more about it than I do. Livable Limerick, probably most of you have heard about it. It's again just tangential, and a lot of people who would be here are involved in cooperative housing would be moving in and out of this. It's a social movement. They just want to bring the city to be more livable, and they focus their area mainly about O'Connell Street. Now, us. So basically, we kind of got together the 28th of May. Some people, again, coming from those groups that I've already mentioned. We're short time in existence, but we really feel that, and as is expressed here, that it's frustratingly close. Okay, so an official trip has been done to Air House, as you've heard about, and also we've attended, particularly Gabriella, the Housing Ourselves conferences in Cloughjordan. We've participated in that. Oh yeah, and we're a member of that cooperative online group. We've participated recently in the Southside Master Plan, and we'll be at that next week. So anyway, then the other thing is that we kind of overlap again with, sorry I'm all over the place, with Limerick 2030. And the reason I mentioned that's a council initiative, but we kind of feel, look, you know, we're here as individuals, but we're also overlapping in ways with official projects. Now, Limerick 2030 is a marketing campaign specifically, but it says interesting things like, you know, it wants to improve the quality of life, wants to make the city centre a desired place to live, and to restore the Georgian area, and that the city should be a place of creativity, culture and consumption. So, next slide. It also puts forward these lovely kind of sounding goals: attractive and historic, green, sustainable, creative and vibrant. And could you go back there a second? It says that it wants to make the city a place that continues to exploit, to be a low carbon economy, enhancing its green potentials. Now, so all I'm trying to say is that I think, if we do go to the council at any point, and we would be collaborating with them, they're already saying it in their marketing material that that's where they want to be. So what issues are we addressing? A lot of this has been covered already this evening, but they're societal, economic and developmental. And if we go forward, we'll just see, the housing crisis that everybody knows about. Rents have gone up, prices have gone up, we've spoken about it, homelessness, you name it. Housing is an issue. Then the issue of sustainability, that we're all aware, and we're becoming more aware of it all the time, that we're living beyond our capacity in terms of our living patterns. That there's global and local inequality, energy challenges, urbanisation, huge economic costs, both to people and to the planetary life, and that most cooperative housing projects really see this as their core. It's not just about getting a house; it's about living in a different way. Climate change, that again, how these houses are built will have a huge impact on the building materials, but how their emissions in terms of energy and stuff. And just these slides will be available, everybody's slides will be available, but that in Sweden 39% of all domestic CO2 emissions comes from real estate. We tend to think it's just transport and agriculture, it's actually housing. So, if people are getting together to design their homes, these are things that, co-housing would be taken into account. Urbanisation, we're all aware of the issue of urbanisation and how it's creating huge impact, not only in terms of climate and sustainability, but air pollution, lack of access. We were just, that recent, remember the Opera Centre was up there for discussion, and people are saying we need to be able to live in the city centre so that we have less impact. People aren't, driving to work, 20 minutes, an hour or whatever, but we need to be kind of addressing all those things with urbanisation, the challenges that that's bringing. And then one last thing, that social isolation is obviously being recognised. All the suburban areas where the young folk have come and gone, and then there's kind of elderly populations living in isolation. But it's recognised as a threat, an epidemic worldwide. So I suppose co-housing and all these it's very hard to summarise everything, but these are some of the issues that we see ourselves as addressing. I think that's it. So Lindsay, take over again now.
So our next step is that we want to create a vision that'll feed into a planning process, and there are quite a large number of things to think about, as you can imagine. So location, as you have gathered, there are choices, but we're leaning to urban Limerick. We're very open to opportunities and partnerships, obviously to individuals, but if there are organisations, if anybody is representing an organisation that might even have funding and would like to treat us as a pilot or a research opportunity, we're open to joining us too. We'd have to think about size, which there would be constraints obviously with location and site availability, the types of homes, the types of occupancy, which people have spoken about, financial and legal structures, which really have had a good airing this evening and can be quite complex, but there's an air of hope somewhere. There's an air of, as Anya said, being quite close. Age range, multi-generational or senior, we're leaning towards multi-generational, but is there anything against co-location, against both and rather than either or? Why did I put I think this was just a divergent pretty pictures, but there's such a huge range. Oh yeah, this was to illustrate senior co-housing. There's an interesting one in London that was 18 years in planning. We hope that won't happen here, but a successful actually older women's co-housing. And we'll just, I think that one Freiburg in Amsterdam was actually Amsterdam City Land Bank, and they went out to the community to develop that particular complex. Yeah, so we'll just keep going. And really those last, the 4 points from what will be shared, how much time will members be expected to commit, how will decisions be made, how will new members join. That is really the nitty-gritty of being in community, and it would be naive to think it was easy. It is part of the picture, but it's an investment into a dream, the creation of a hope, and perhaps being involved in something larger. So what we would like to do is create a vision, have you join us, as many of you as feel you'd like to take the next step into this, and Gabrielle is going to just take us into a step for creating the next workshop and a date for that.